and red lights paint my driveway at 6 in the morning, and I'm still in pajamas when 2 officers jump out of their cruisers, bolt cutters in hand. They're here because someone called 911 to report a man drowning in my pool. Funny thing, I'm the owner, and I just put a brand new smart lock on that gate last night. I lead the cops around the house, heart racing, only to find the HOA president's 21-year-old son, Chad, yanking on the locked gate and yelling about saving a life. The pool water is smooth as glass. No one's in trouble. One officer narrows his eyes and asks the kid, "Do you live here?" Chad's mouth opens, then shuts. No, but..." That's all it takes. The whole lie unravels, and the cops turn to me for the code instead of him. I can already tell this lock, barely $200 on sale, is about to uncover a mess worth a whole lot more. For 5 straight years, I lived on cold pizza, energy drinks, and bug hunting marathons, chasing a dream line of code that finally paid off when a big tech company bought my little startup. Cash in hand, I ran, not walked, to a quiet corner of the country and snagged a 2-acre slice of heaven. Tall pines swaying in the breeze, birds trading notes at dawn, and a glass-smooth infinity pool that spilled into a view of rolling hills. Morning started before the sun. I'd slip into the water just as the sky blushed pink, count my laps, then stretch out on a lounge chair with coffee so fresh it still steamed in the cool air. No Slack pings, no late-night alerts, no clients breathing down my neck, just wind in the trees, and my heart finally beating at a normal pace. It felt like the world pressed an invisible mute button. I had everything I ever wanted, for 2 whole weeks. One morning, about 2 weeks in, I walked out to the pool with my coffee and noticed something strange. The lounge chairs were off. Not by much, but just enough that it caught my eye. I'm a bit obsessive about how I set things up, so I knew I didn't leave them that way. There were wet footprints on the deck, even though it hadn't rained. Still, I told myself maybe it was just morning dew or wind. I tried to shake it off. But then I went to clean the skimmer basket, and that's when my stomach turned. Floating in the water, next to a few leaves, was a used condom. My hands actually froze. I didn't know whether to be angry or disgusted or both. I spent the next hour walking the property, checking everything. That's when I found 6 empty hard seltzer cans near the trash, cigarette butts smashed into the concrete, and what looked like dried vomit behind a planter. It felt unreal. The gates were all locked, every one of them. I double-check them every night. So how the hell did someone get in? And worse, how many people were with them? That same afternoon, I remembered there was an old security camera pointed at the main gate. It was leftover from the previous owner, grainy and low quality, but I figured it might show something. I loaded up the footage and started scrubbing through the weekend. Hours of nothing, until Saturday night. Around 11 p.m., one car pulls up, then another, then another. Within minutes, more than 20 people had shown up, most of them young, laughing, carrying drinks and pool bags. And standing at the gate, like it was a club entrance, was a guy I'd never seen before. Later, I'd find out his name was Chad. He was taking something from each person before letting them in. It looked like cash. One by one, they walked right through my locked gate like they owned the place. What I saw next made my jaw clench. Loud music, people making out on the deck, someone throwing up in the bushes, a couple actually hooking up behind my pool house. It wasn't a few kids sneaking a swim. It was a full-blown party. And Chad? At the end of the night, he was counting a fat stack of bills, smiling like he'd just finished a shift. That's when it hit me. This wasn't trespassing. It was a business. 2 hours after I installed the smart lock, there was loud knocking on my front door. Not polite knocking, more like someone was trying to break it down. I opened it to find a woman standing there with an angry face and oversized sunglasses, even though my porch was shaded. Her hair was a stiff, bleached helmet, and her voice cut like glass. "This electronic monstrosity on your gate violates Section 7.3.2 of our HOA guidelines," she snapped, waving a piece of paper in my face. Before I could say a word, she told me I had 48 hours to remove the lock, or I'd be fined $500 per day. I tried explaining what had happened, that people were throwing parties in my backyard. But she didn't care. You don't make changes without board approval. That's how property values drop. Then she stormed off like she'd just won something. A few minutes later, my neighbor Arthur shuffled over from next door with a half-eaten muffin and a tired smile. "Welcome to Barb's kingdom," he said, eyeing the notice in my hand. "She made that rule up last year after someone tried to install a doorbell camera." He paused. "Used to be a big-time developer, lost everything. Now the HOA is all she's got. A few days later, just after sunrise, I was in the kitchen making coffee when I heard yelling coming from the back of the property. I pulled up the camera feed on my phone, and there was Chad, back again, with 3 friends, backpacks, and a giant cooler like it was spring break. He was shaking the gate, kicking it, and swearing loud enough that I could hear him through the kitchen window. "This stupid lock! My mom said it would be fixed!" One of the girls with him, already in a bikini despite the cold morning air, whined that she'd promised a sunrise swim for some influencer shoot. That's when Chad did something so stupid I thought I was imagining it. He stared straight into my camera, pulled out his phone, and called 911. "Help," he said, instantly switching to a fake, panicked voice. "There's a man drowning in the pool next door. I can see him sinking. He hasn't come up." He even threw in some fake hand gestures, like he was trying to act for an invisible crowd. "The gate's locked. I can't get in." 8 minutes later, 2 police cruisers tore into my driveway, lights on, officers jumping out with urgency. I met them at the door, still in pajama pants. "You're going to want to see this first," I said. I pulled up the footage showing a calm, empty pool, and Chad's Oscar-worthy fake emergency. The officer's face changed immediately. "Filing a false report is a criminal offense," he said, and walked straight toward the gate. The next morning my phone buzzed at 7:05 a.m. 2 police officers at the door responding to a noise complaint. The noise was me swimming quiet laps. No music, no guests, just splashes. They looked embarrassed but had to write a report. Day 2, I found Barbara kneeling in my front yard with a ruler, snapping pictures of my grass. She posted online that my lawn measured a scandalous 3.5 inches when the rule says 3. Her post finished with, "Some people think the rules don't apply to them." Dozens of neighbors liked it. By lunch, the community page was full of warnings about my spy cameras and claims that I was filming their kids. People who had waved at me last week now crossed the street to avoid me. One mom pulled her son off the sidewalk when I walked my dog. That afternoon, a thick envelope arrived from a law firm. Inside was a demand for $50,000 for emotional distress suffered by Chad and his mother, plus a threat to sue if I didn't remove the smart lock at once. I sat on the edge of the pool, letter in hand, staring at the calm water that was supposed to mean peace. For the first time, I wondered if the dream was worth this fight. Maybe I should sell, move on, and let the vultures have their way. That night I couldn't sleep. Something about the way Barbara kept pushing made me feel like there was more going on than just a few wild parties. So I started digging. I pulled all my old security footage and matched it with anything I could find online. It didn't take long. A public Instagram account popped up under the name Paradise Pool Exclusive. It had over 5,000 followers, and every single photo was taken at my pool. My diving board, my sunset view, even the stone planter I built by hand. The account had been running for 3 years, with 847 posts, all tagged with my address. There were pictures of crowded pool parties, promo videos, and even price lists. Friday night splash parties were $50 per person. Saturdays had a sunset VIP tier at $75. Sundays? Those were photoshoot bookings for $200 an hour. And it didn't stop there. They were charging $50 extra for access to my gazebo, calling it a VIP cabana. I sat there with a calculator, roughing out the numbers, and realized something sickening. This wasn't just kids sneaking into a pool. This was a business, a serious one. By my count, Barbara and Chad had made around $600,000 off my property, using my water, my electricity, and my backyard. And I didn't even know it was happening. Not until now. The HOA meeting was packed, standing room only. People I'd never seen before filled the room, many of them whispering and side-eyeing me as I walked in with my laptop. Barbara sat at the head of the table like she owned the place, clipboard in hand, fake smile ready. She wasted no time. "Before we begin," she said loudly, "we need to address a serious violation at 1847 Oak Creek Drive." She clicked her little remote, and photos of my house and security cameras appeared on the projector behind her. "Unauthorized surveillance, unapproved electronic equipment. I motion for a $5,000 fine and $500 a day until it's removed." Dozens of hands went up without question. I waited for her to finish, and then stood. "Thanks, Barbara. Now, if no one minds, I'd like to talk about what's really been happening at 1847 Oak Creek Drive." I connected my laptop to the projector. The first slide came up. Beer cans, cigarette butts, and vomit around my pool. People shifted in their seats. Next slide. Chad, standing at my gate, collecting cash from teenagers. Slide 3. The Paradise Pool Instagram account, 5,000 plus followers, 847 posts, all tagged at my home address. Slide 4. Business records for BNC Entertainment. Barbara and Chad listed as owners. People were whispering now, getting louder. Then I played the video. Barbara's voice, crystal clear. "I handle the cops, the neighbors, the HOA. That's worth 80%. Dead silence. Then a parent stood up. "That's my daughter in that photo. She's 16. Another voice. "My kid was at that party. He said he paid Chad." The room turned. Barbara's face went pale. That's when 2 IRS agents and a local cop stepped in. "Barbara Whitman?" one asked. She tried to stand but stumbled. Chad bolted for the door but didn't get far. Both of them were led out in handcuffs while the room erupted, parents yelling, board members denying they knew anything. Barbara's empire crumbled right there on the community center floor. In the days after the meeting, everything flipped. The fine Barbara tried to stick me with was dropped immediately. Then came the kicker. During the emergency election, I was voted in as the new HOA president with 98% of the vote. Honestly, I didn't even campaign. Barbara was sentenced to 5 to 7 years for fraud and child endangerment. Chad got probation, a massive fine, and 300 hours of community service. An HOA audit revealed she had also borrowed over $50,000 from community funds. With part of the settlement money, I upgraded my security system to something out of a spy movie. Facial recognition, 8 night vision cameras, motion sensors, and a custom alarm system that announces intruders by name. I even put up a giant metal sign by the pool. Private property. Chad detected. Ford's instant police alert. 2 weeks later, the system got its first test. Chad showed up on foot, trying to play it casual. He stopped at 51 meters, just outside the boundary. Then he took one step closer. The lights snapped on, sirens blared, and a deep voice shouted, "Chad Whitman identified. Police have been notified." He panicked, spun around, and ran so fast he left one of his shoes behind. I kept it. So, yeah. Turns out a $200 smart lock didn't just protect my pool. It blew the lid off a $600,000 scam. Barbara called it an eyesore. Now she's staring at iron bars instead. And Chad? Well, let's just say he didn't exactly learn his lesson. If you want to hear what he tried after the arrest, drop a comment. Like, share, and let me know if your HOA's ever pulled something shady. I'm starting a map of the worst ones.